Good evening and welcome to St. James, or at least my office. Tonight I wanted to do just a little time of reflection, some poetry, and some thoughts about this longest night of the year. When we get to the longest night of the year, so often we forget, or perhaps some of us remember, that Christmas is not a time of great joy for all people. Perhaps you have lost someone dear to you. Perhaps you are struggling financially or socially or emotionally in some way, mentally. This is a time of struggle for you instead. And so for those who have lost folks, for those who are feeling blue at Christmas time when everyone else is singing Christmas carols and sounding joyful, I thought that it would be appropriate for us to have a time when we might share together just a few moments to reflect and perhaps talk about some practices that might help you in this time of year. I want to start with a poem, a wonderful poem by Rumi, The Guest House. It's one that I've read before in different locations, but I wonder if you might hear it, and we'll say a word about it. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from above. If you're anything like me this time of year, all the joy around us, it doesn't always feel comfortable, if you will, it doesn't feel comfortable to not feel the joy of the season, to not feel Christmassy, the magic, the mystery, whatever it may be. And yet, if you're carrying a heavy burden of one kind or another, and each of us carries some burdens, and at times they feel heavier than perhaps they do at other times, it's hard to greet them in. So when I read and thought about Rumi's poetry, The Guest House, we are a guest house, and we don't always know when we wake up in the morning what will be coming to visit us. What will we experience this day? And as we get close to Christmas, perhaps the first Christmas without a particular person with whom we're used to sharing it, or at least knowing they're around. And whether because the relationship ended or because someone died, there's an alienation or a brokenness, the inability to travel this year, whatever it may be, it feels very heavy. It feels very heavy. I encourage you in the days ahead, and Christmas is just 4 days from now. I encourage you in the days ahead, perhaps, to take some time. And if it's someone you're missing, perhaps you get out a picture of them and you look at them and you think about them and you bring up the memories, the good, the bad, and the bitter as they arise in you, and you perhaps spend some time pondering what they meant to you. Perhaps you light a candle as a way of giving thanks for their life, for what they've meant to you. Perhaps whatever it is that you may be missing is not a person. Perhaps you've changed jobs or you've moved to a different place and you're not experiencing things the way you did wherever you were before. You can still light that candle as a way of reminding you of the presence of God in your life in this moment, as a way of honoring the memories that you have. So I encourage you perhaps to give that candle lighting bit a try for the things that feel lost to you in this season. And perhaps that's several things, and perhaps you need to light several candles, whatever it may be. I hope that might bring you a bit of comfort. There are words, spoken in a psalm, and I'm going to read just the beginning several verses of that psalm. It might be familiar to you as I read it to you as something you hear Jesus saying on the cross in the crucifixion. But when you're carrying something heavy, it might feel exactly like the right words for you. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my anguished groans? My God, I cry out during the day and you don't answer. Even at nighttime, I don't stop. You are the Holy One enthroned. You are Israel's praise. Our ancestors trusted you. They trusted you and you rescued them. They cried out to you and they were saved. They trusted you and they weren't ashamed. This is a word for the Lord for us tonight. Crying out in pain, even at a time of the year when everyone around you is feeling, it, at least outwardly, appears to be feeling full of joy and celebration, and you're not feeling it. There is nothing to be ashamed about. Don't be ashamed for the feelings that you have that arise in this season, for the losses that you've suffered, for the differences that you're facing in this season. As the psalmist tells us, the ancestors cried out to the Lord, and they were not ashamed. They felt forsaken, and they cried out and were delivered. Now, we're not at the delivered part yet. If you are still struggling and you are still in that very first verse, my God, why have you forsaken me? I want to tell you it's an okay place to be. You don't really need my permission, but sometimes it's helpful if someone says to you, it's okay to feel that way in this season. It's okay to not feel the joy everyone else is feeling. It's not prescribed in the Christmas season that you feel a particular way. Now, in the upcoming days, there will be a Christmas Eve celebration, and I'll be talking about joy and trying to focus more on the joy. But tonight is a night where you and I can remember together across the internet. We can remember together the losses we've had. This past Monday, I was thinking about the 1-year anniversary of the death of a very good friend of mine, Thomas. Thomas, who became a friend of mine, intriguingly enough, in 2018 at the Living School. And we became close and fast friends, talking to each other sometimes weekly, and in our more busy times of life, perhaps just monthly, scheduling regular Zoom calls to talk about what is coming. I was looking back through my texts earlier this week on the day of his death, which for me is the Feast of Thomas on the 18th. I was looking back on my text from before that, and we had scheduled our regular Zoom meeting for the 28th of that December, 10 days after he died. Now, it was completely unexpected, his death, and I struggled with it this week. It felt very heavy to me, heavy in the midst of all the other things going on in our world, wars and violence, and the struggle to find meaning in the midst of all of that. And it felt heavy. There are times when it feels like we are forsaken. So if that's where you're feeling, this is a good place to be. Perhaps you need to find someone who will listen to you, someone, a friend, to talk to remember. Perhaps you pull out your journal and you write stories about the person that you're remembering or that which you lost. And you just honestly put on paper what it is you're feeling so that it's out there. And you can do exactly what Psalm 22 speaks about. And that is the psalmist cries out to God. We often think when we chat with God that we're supposed to come to God, we have requests about other people's challenges and we give thanks and all those kinds of things. And that's absolutely true. But if the Psalms tell us anything, if you've read all of them, and that is whatever you're feeling, God can hear it. God wants to hear it. God knows you're carrying heavy things. So crying out is nothing to be ashamed of. It's the right thing to do if you need to. And so even the words of Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? If those rise naturally for you, I encourage you, use those. That's good. As I reflected on loss in preparation for tonight's message, and part of the loss was I was gonna, this was gonna be live at 7, and I had technical glitches and difficulties. I almost thought to myself, maybe I just need to run over to the worship center and do it from there as opposed to my office here at the house. But I was able to bring the camera back online. It was an adventure. It was an adventure, to say the least, and it made for an interesting preparation, trying to be here in this moment as I share these thoughts with you and with whomsoever else might hear them. Let's take a moment of silence and name some people perhaps that that come to your mind. I'll name some that come to my mind in that moment of silence as folks I remember, folks I want to remember, things about which I'm grieving right now. Things about which I'm grieving right now. Not being with certain people, not being with able to connect with others, whatever it may be for you. Let's just take a moment of silence together and hold that up. Hear these words of comfort from Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. Come to me, all you who are struggling hard and carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. Put on my yoke and learn from me, I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest for yourselves. My yoke is easy to bear, and my burden is light. Come to me, all you who are struggling hard and carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. I hope for you in this space that you will be able to find for yourself that time in order to hold the feelings that you're having, the sense of loss that you may be feeling. And that you might find a practice, light a candle, look at a picture, take a walk outside, call a friend, talk on the phone, meet a friend for coffee, whatever seems most right for you in this season. I encourage you to do that. Now, as sort of as an ending of our time together tonight, I had picked out a poem. I want you to hear this poem, and perhaps it will give you. It's a poem that was written by one person for another person who had lost someone dear. Having read the obituary of the friend's father, the poet wrote this poem entitled "In Lieu of Flowers." The poet's name is Shauna LeMay. This is written, I think, from the perspective of the one who has gone on, who has ended, who is giving their best wishes to the one that hears them. So I want you to hear them that way in this time. Although I love flowers very much, I won't see them when I'm gone. So in lieu of flowers, buy a book of poetry written by someone still alive. Sit outside with a cup of tea, a glass of wine, and read it out loud or silently by yourself or to someone else. Spend some time with a single flower, a rose maybe. Smell it, touch the petals, really look at it. Drink a really nice bottle of wine with someone you love. Or champagne. And think of what John Maynard Keynes said, "My only regret in life is that I did not drink more champagne." Or what Dom Perignon said when he first tasted the stuff, "Come quickly, I'm tasting the stars." Take out a paint set and lay down some colors. Watch birds. Common sparrows are fine. Pigeons too. Geese are nice. Robins. In lieu of flowers, walk in the trees and watch the light fall into it. Eat an apple, a really nice big one. I hope it's crisp. Have a long soak in a bathtub with candles, maybe some rose petals. Sit on the front stoop and watch the clouds. Have a dish of strawberry ice cream in my name, or chocolates. If it's winter, have a cup of hot chocolate outside for me. If it's summer, a big glass of ice water. If it's autumn, collect some leaves and press them in a book. I'd like that. Sit and look out a window and write down what you see. Write some other things down too. In lieu of flowers, I wish for you to flower. I would wish for you to blossom, to open, to be beautiful. I would wish for you to align your soul for a time with flowers. Now, of course, some of those solutions, if you're struggling with addiction, are not good choices. If you're an overeater, perhaps chocolates or strawberry ice cream, not a good idea. If you're struggling with addiction to alcohol, perhaps champagne and wine is not a good plan. But perhaps some of those suggestions suggest to you what those we miss might wish for us in this season. For the things that we miss might wish for us in this season. And that is that we find a bit of peace, that we blossom in this season. And in the midst of that blossoming, reveal as the petals open. The petals open and they reveal to us the inner workings, the vulnerableness of the rose or any other flower that you hold for that matter. And as you hold them and see just how fragile and beautiful they are, perhaps you can think of how fragile and beautiful life really is. And you can celebrate it as the gift that it is. You can also feel the sadness of what it is to lose those with whom you wish you were still accompanying them. In any case, I hope for you on this, the longest night of the year, in the shadows and the darkness of the night, as you perhaps wish for the light and hope for it, feel forsaken, carrying heavy burdens and struggling. In the midst of that, may you find blessing in taking a moment to honor in memory those folks or that which you are mourning its change. My friends, I wish you all the best in this season. Do remember you are infinitely precious and unconditionally loved for the gift you already are. May you find peace and joy and love. Until the next time.